Happy NVIDIA earnings day. The tech giant will be reporting its fiscal year 2025 second quarter earnings sometime in the next 15 minutes. The markets are hanging on this like it is a soap opera that my grandmother watched in the late 90s. We'll be discussing NVIDIA earnings, everything else important in the market, and much more today on Money Never Sleeps. Thanks for joining us today, folks. As we get going, you know the deal here. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you'd be so kind, and remember that nothing Kevin or I say is financial advice. So please do your own research before making any sort of financial decision. Kev, we have NVIDIA earnings any minute now. The market just closed. It was down. I'm looking across the board here, and it's pretty red. Nothing extreme, though. We see NVIDIA down about 2% on the day. Other tech giants dragged with it as well. Google about 1%, Tesla 1.75%. Same for Netflix. I don't know what to believe right now. The expectations from investors are that they're going to beat earnings, but then we also have people saying we're going to see like 10% swings in either direction, which is, for an NVIDIA earnings day, that's not unusual, right? Like we've seen them release earnings, and then gap up 40%. So what's that going to do with the market? How's that going to impact crypto? What is that going to look like with the overnights in Asia for tomorrow's trading day? Add to that, we get more GDP data and jobs tomorrow. Then we get inflation on Friday. We've gotten through the boring part of the week. Now the fun begins. Oh, it's a holiday weekend in the U.S. So how are people going to be positioning themselves going into the long weekend? Uncertainty in the Middle East. I've been rambling. Why don't you talk now? You're on mute, by the way. You're on mute.
Of course I was. Yeah, so pretty much I don't think that the revenue is going to be the issue that we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking towards forward guidance and also kind of what's going on in the semiconductor and chip space, right? We got some bad news out of, Super Microcomputer yesterday with Hindenburg Research deciding to short, citing, manipulation and allegations on their accounting side. Big surprise there. We were the only ones who called it when we saw the CEO last time.
When you hear a company called Hindenburg is shorting you, your butthole has to pucker up real tight.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the omen right there, right? Like game over for everyone. But yeah, the CEO, a few earnings called back, or he was on Bloomberg or something like that. And I remember I was watching it the day he reported earnings, and then he says that we're just a very lucky company. Oh, if luck is all that there is to it, then I guess that there's no chance of them ever pulling back. I honestly think that it's just kind of a foolish CEO saying some stupid things, and we're gonna have to wait and see how these allegations play out. But the market is not liking Super Microcomputer as of this moment. Now, they are also NVIDIA's third biggest customer. So now you have to think, how does that impact NVIDIA? The other side is Microsoft's their top customer. Does NVIDIA say something bad happens with NVIDIA's stock price? Does that also drag Microsoft down with it? And back and forth, does that just kind of, chase its tail in one direction to the downside? It's something that we have to consider as well. Also, NVIDIA yesterday, or I think it was yesterday, they announced a partnership with CrowdStrike. The company you keep, that's something that you kind of have to keep in mind. And as of right now, it's not a good look on NVIDIA by any means. So the market's priced this to perfection.
By the way, CrowdStrike is dumping there's a lot of volatility there. I believe they're also reporting.
Yeah, they have theirs today.
64. It just went down to like the 240s. Now it's back up. Now it's going up. Oh boy. This could be maybe, NVIDIA is what everyone's watching, but maybe CrowdStrike and Salesforce are also some areas where you should be keeping your eyes right now, because I think those are going to be pretty volatile in the after hours also.
Yeah, and it really is the company that you keep. It's not a good look for NVIDIA right here, especially with all the things that we saw with CrowdStrike, what we're probably seeing right now with Super Microcomputer. I would also add that when we look at the NVIDIA right now, it's not $90 a share. It's 125-ish, right? So earnings better be fucking perfect for there to be any type of liquidity that can push this up, because we have to understand who's in at the top of this market. A lot of people. We've seen Jensen offload a shit ton. We saw, some other major funds offload their entire NVIDIA positions. They're also inclined to keep riding this to the upside. They might, but they didn't. It's going to be really interesting. I'm pretty much just, yeah, CrowdStrike's up 5% right now. Wow. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the markets take this, because this could be a little pre-pump and then NVIDIA reports earnings and then the markets could absolutely reverse. Who knows, right? We don't know.
Or they could report good guidance and the markets just take off even further, at least with AI and tech. It's definitely a possibility.
Bastards.
All right. What else
Yeah.
has really been going on this week outside of us waiting on NVIDIA? Anything noteworthy that you've been looking at?
Yeah, I've been watching certain things. One thing that's really been catching my interest is the bond market. I'm going to share my screen real quick because this is pretty noteworthy, and it's just coming up.
Never say. Bond market is interesting. I don't know about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting when you're at zero, right? It's 0 on the 10 to 2 year yield curve. So we're about to revert back to positive after how many months? Who knows? Since Jerome Powell came out in July of 2022 and sunk it. It's been negative for over 2 years now. Probably one of the longest yield curve inversions for if it doesn't break above the positive, the zero level, then we're going to stay inverted longer, which I don't think that's going to be the case. But technically, over 2 years, we've seen this. Why is this important? Well, this pretty much means that equities are going to pull back. They've seen this time and time again throughout history. Whenever the yield curve gets positive after being negative for such a period of time, we tend to see equities pull back and a lot of money pulls into the bond market, right? It's kind of pricing in Powell's rate cuts and everything like that. But that's something that quietly is going under the radar. Going to be very, very important, I think, in September to see how this reacts, especially as we get closer to that first rate cut. If it's a 50 basis point, I think there's a good chance this thing's going to be shooting up, and you could see the long end of the treasuries, that the TLT and some of those other 10, 20 or 30-year bonds absolutely skyrocket in demand for a lot of people, especially if the market pulls back with it. That's going to be something that's really interesting. You're saving treasuries by destroying equities, and there is a case to be made that is what is potentially on the agenda for the next few months. So we'll keep an eye on that. Outside of that, obviously gold continues to keep climbing. Nothing necessarily noteworthy there. I don't know if we talked about this last week. I know we talked about Schwab, but Schwab put in a death cross. I don't know if I played that last week or that was something else, but just for fun. Pour one out for all the banks that are being absolutely dumped by Berkshire Hathaway and all these other people that are just, offloading their exposure to them. I think it was TD Ameritrade, and we might have played this last week, but TD Ameritrade offloaded a shit ton of Schwab. We're seeing that Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett is offloading, $1 billion worth of Bank of America. I know he has a ton of it. So that being said, that could change in any given period of time. Maybe he's just trying to offload risk exposure, but he's got $283 billion worth of cash sitting on the sidelines. That's saying something, if not louder than anyone else on Bloomberg or MSNBC. So that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on. But I don't think the banks are done here. I think the banks have a lot of pain to go. And, we're seeing just kind of the beginnings of this. BMO, no one's really been watching this as well. Rejected off the 200 and the 50. Looks like it's going down pretty good. It looks like we got a bit of a dead cat bounce here from August 5th. We'll see if this continues to the downside. I think it will. And 77, you break that and you're coming down to obviously like 74. But beyond that, there's a good chance that we could be looking to fill this gap somewhere between $64 and $63 or so. Across the board, I think the banks are definitely going to be in some pain if we do see an equity pullback. But the yield curve seems like it's here, and that seems like what's going to be happening over the next few months. I'm talking too long. Is there anything else that we need to go over? I'm just waiting for these earnings to roll out.
Yeah, let me refresh. I think we got like another 5 minutes. Yeah, they're still not out yet. Not seeing anything in the post market with, NVIDIA moving substantially in either direction. So we'll keep
Interesting.
waiting there. One stock that's on my radar that I want to discuss, and we don't need to dive too deep into it right now, but something that I think could be worth a short eventually is Airbnb.
Oh, yeah.
Looking at them, they don't report earnings for another 63 days. So you got plenty of time here. There's we talk about weak moves that send something from oversold to overbought. I mean, their move over the last 4 or 5 days, or 10 trading days, is so weak. I've never the sentiment around Airbnb right now, and for anyone who's watching, waiting for NVIDIA stuff, we'll have it as soon as it's out. But the sentiment around Airbnb could not be worse right now. These are going to be numbers for the next quarter that are going to show one of the biggest travel times of the year during summer. I keep seeing more and more people posting about how shitty their Airbnb was, all the fees that they've tacked onto it, how they reverted to going to hotels now because Airbnbs are so impractical. They're way down from their all-time high. I believe their all-time high was around 225. So they're like 50% of that. That doesn't mean they can't cut another 50% off with some bad earnings. So this is one that is kind of on my radar. And look at that lining up with you and your fucking waves. So this is one that's on my radar as a potential, maybe we just short this motherfucker and just watch it bleed, because I hate that company. And, I don't want to see people lose their jobs, but with how bad the housing market is, with the number of people who are underwater on their Airbnbs, is that going to be a good thing or a bad thing if they have to start selling and, they don't have as much supply? And we've seen, all the real estate geniuses on Twitter talking about, Airbnb and all the, their properties. It just feels like this is the time to maybe take a look. At the top of the B wave obviously would have been the best time recently, but I don't think you can get stuck to that if you think that this thing is going to keep eating shit, which I do.
Yeah, I completely agree. ABC corrected pattern. It would have been nice to short at 172, currently sitting at 117. However, if this is a true ABC corrective pattern, B not going higher than the origin, we're looking lower than $81 or so for the C wave to bottom out. Now, the interesting thing is this company went public literally in 2021, or right around 2021. It looks like December 2020 is when it went live. Why that's important? Because there is no support below this $81 level. So the market will have to find itself at that point. Maybe it's a penny stock and we just didn't fucking know it.
Well, it's interesting too when we talk about when it went public. Look at everything that was going on then. People had excess savings.
Yep.
There's this pent up demand for travel because everyone had been stuck in COVID lockdown. So it's that was the perfect storm and the absolute peak moment for them. And ever since then, people have less money. There's still demand to travel, but it's not as strong. And people are kind of burnt out on all the bullshit that comes with staying in an Airbnb.
I completely agree. Personally, I just stay in a hotel, man. Get some Hilton Rewards or something. You can even buy Hilton Rewards, and it's cheaper than just outright renting a room itself, and just use those points. There's a lot of ways you can get around spending a lot of money for travel. And the good thing about a hotel is that if something's broken or something sucks, they can just get you a new room, right? That's the nice thing about it. Airbnb. You're really at the discretion of whoever's property it is, and maybe it's a shithole, and the pictures online didn't tell you that. So I would believe that this would probably go lower than 81 if this is the ABC corrective pattern. I don't think people are. I mean, think about how many people are going to go bust that bought all these properties that can't afford to make payments on them too, right? It's not good for both consumers or renters of these properties. Or people who are going to be using them. So that's definitely one where once the greater market starts to crash, I think that Airbnb is probably going to follow with it. I don't know where it's going to go because obviously 2020 is when it came out, but I wouldn't be surprised if this thing's trading less than $10 at some point. I'm just saying it's very possible, especially if you see this end up becoming a penny stock. How many major companies come out and then just next thing you know, 2 years later, they're trading 99, 80 something percent lower than what they opened at. So keep an eye on that. What else can we do? Let me just see if NVIDIA's earnings are with the price. Looking at NVIDIA, flat as can be, 125.39. Still waiting.
Still sitting here. I'm refreshing and I'm getting nothing. The first sign that they are out will be whatever happens on TradingView with the market price. But yeah, right now everyone's just kind of sitting on their hands to see, did they beat By how much? What are the expectations moving forward? All of that good stuff.
Let's do Bitcoin real quick while we wait for that. Yesterday we talked about where it could potentially, or what was this? Monday we talked about where it could potentially go. It's pointing towards the downside. It seemed likely. You had this first little move down. It might be their wave one. We might have a bounce here, maybe to 61, 62, maybe the 50 moving average. That's very possible, right? 61.50, 61.560. From there, there's a good chance that we could probably see a good move to the downside. I think that $45,000 level, at $46,000 level I gave on Monday, might be a good area where this could bottom out. I think we're going to get an extension, probably going to test the bottom of this trend line. Kind of lines up with 46, the higher end of 46, but maybe a bit of a wick lower, and then we kind of close above it. That's what I'm kind of looking at within this pattern. Eventually, it's going to break from this pattern. This pattern sucks. It's a megaphone pattern. It's not fun to be trading within this range. I would like to see this kind of break from this, or one direction or the other, so that we can kind of get into a new structural pattern. We can kind of tell where it's going in the macro. As of this right now, I'm just using the greater financial, conditions for where this is probably heading. But I do think that we are starting to see weakness in Bitcoin. It was due for a bit of a sell-off. It's been overbought for such a period of time, and the structure it played out, but we finished at ABC. Expect a 5 wave if this is what this ABC was. And, some of the levels that we gave yesterday will be interesting. And again, Bitcoin's kind of waiting for NVDA here too. I would assume, considering that a lot of crypto is held within Japan because Japanese love crypto. And I wouldn't be surprised if yen carry trade or anything like that does impact Bitcoin or some of these other ones' prices in the coming days, the weeks. We were talking about alts yesterday too, or the other day too. They're just weak. So I can't say anything nicer about them. They're going to follow whatever Bitcoin's doing, and Bitcoin took a big dump. Alts were right there with it. So it's going to be fun to see how this NVIDIA earnings impacts that. Outside of that, the VIX has been going up. And let's talk about that. What's Japan look like tonight if NVIDIA has bad earnings? NVIDIA has bad earnings, you're going to see an unwind. And you probably would see market futures in the U.S. be a lot lower, post 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And if it escalates in Japan to the point where all the money that they're pulling in to get a good return off of that yen carry trade starts dumping, very similar to how Super Microcomputer was dumping today, then I would anticipate that the VIX opens up a lot higher tomorrow. Said the VIX was going to be really sticky here. I didn't think it was going to go below 14.5 or so again. Has not since we made that call. What does that mean? That means that we're probably in an environment for a lot higher volatility and people betting that volatility will pick up. Just so you know, the average for the VIX throughout a given year is 19.5. So we are still below average. So there's still people thinking that the market can go up. Might be on the wrong side of a trade there. We will see. But look, daily stochastic RSI, plenty of room to the upside for the VIX itself. This is a blip. That yen carry trade happens again. You're going to probably see institutions break, and we'll probably go north of 65. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a VIX closer to 90 to 100 in that range if everything goes bad. But the Labor Day weekend too. That's the scary part. We got markets open in Asia Sunday night, not open the U.S. until Monday night, right? Because of the holidays. So, are people going to sell off Friday so they don't have to be sold on and have to sell at a lower price on Tuesday? We'll see. But the VIX, I definitely think, is very correlated with the yen carry trade, NVIDIA, and the greater S&P if it does dump. Right now, the S&P was down a lot lower today, but kind of looks like it's rolling over here, guys. I'm not saying it is. This could be a double top. Maybe it's not. But you fill that gap, and you got a gap down here at the 50 moving average. Doesn't just have to stop there. I mean, to be honest, we got so many gaps way below us, and we're in so many bearish patterns. But the fun has to run out at some point. Today would be a great day if NVIDIA did report poor forward guidance. Now, did we get anything from Jensen or nothing yet?
Nothing yet. I am seeing NVIDIA starting to churn up in the after hours here, currently about 1.5%. Now it's coming back down.
Oh, man. Volatility here.
Yeah, this is...
Send them back to Denny's. Come on, let's go.
Now it's back. Yeah, it's just all over the place at the moment. I feel like we should be it's 20 after. I feel like we got to be getting earnings sometime.
Right there, back and forth. Oh my gosh, this is so stupid. Oh, dumping.
2% down. Yeah, or are they? This is annoying.
This is
All
so
right.
dumb. Let me say this right now. If you're betting on NVIDIA going up here at the top when everyone else is sold off, good fucking luck. Uh, I'm serious. This is such a joke going back and forth on NVIDIA. This is the one stock that's going to decide whether the economy, the market stays up or not. There's so much weight in this one stupid stock, and let's put it this way: their chips are not beyond the limits of physics. That's bullshit. That's as much bullshit to me as we're just a very lucky company. Eat
This
ass,
Hobble saying they just came out. I am refreshing over and over, and I'm not getting anything.
you idiots. I wonder why he's on Bloomberg today too. I want to know that.
I
Tell
mean,
me why he's gonna be on Bloomberg for the first time. That after an earnings call. That's what I want to know. Is it to pump it?
gonna
Is it?
victory lap it. Gonna victory lap some strong earnings. I'm still seeing anything here. Okay.
Should put us on that panel. I got some questions. I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
that would just go amazingly. Put you up on Bloomberg. Can't wait to see that one happen. There's I mean, if this is the move, it's not the 10% volatility that I was promised. I'm just not seeing any numbers either. So
I think people are just making up the numbers. At least they're imagining what the numbers could be, and they're trading off of that.
Zero Hedge came out calling a double beat. What?
Oh, they sold double. Who they sell it to? Semi super microcomputer.
What does Zero Hedge have here? Q through revenue. So their look ahead is 32.5 billion for Q3 revenue. Initial estimate was 31.9. 50 billion in share buybacks. They beat revenue by 1.2 billion. Let's see. Earnings per share 68 cents versus expectations of 69, and gross margin right at the estimates. So if those are the actual numbers, then it kind of explains why we're seeing a little. This could end up being a very boring day, and that's what I'm talking about. Like everyone's like just bet against what everyone's expecting. Like the expectation was huge volatility, and maybe that still comes. Maybe I'm proven wrong here, but when everyone's expecting something to move in a big way,
Never does.
it never does, right? Like it just doesn't happen, and so that's why.
Yeah, and the interesting thing too is that we could get the move Friday, right?
Yeah.
Up or down. It's very possible. I think it's going to be when people least expect it too. It's dumping a little bit now, 122 or so. This is the fun part about this too. This trend line, as of right now, is still holding fairly well, right? This white trend line that we talked about, you called it out. I made the bet on it. It's holding pretty strong for the time being. But could we? Oh, now it's dumping a little bit more. 121, 137.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like the market does not. It beat, but not by much, and the forward guidance was below the whisper number that everyone was expecting it to be. So,
maybe average 117, maybe.
I mean, it's very possible. We'll see what happens overnight with Asia, but I would expect. Maybe it opens at that moving average.
Crowd shrinks up. Stupid.
Could be the move tomorrow morning when everything opens up. Yeah, under 120 now. NVIDIA crashing to a price that we haven't seen since since 2 Thursdays ago. So everyone panic. Crypto is moving with it. Bitcoin just went below 59. Let's see, what are the other tech? Apple is down a little bit.
Apple shot up like so much in the past few days. Like eat shit.
Microsoft not really moving much on this news. And like them, I don't really think they would if they're buying the chips. It's not like they're the ones who are producing like components for them. It's
and
not.
Are they
116? Now we're heading down. We're seeing about 7.5
right now. Yeah,
down in the after hours. So NVIDIA, this is what their worst. They still beat, and this is their worst earnings in how many reports? Like a couple of years. So maybe we were long overdue for a move like this, and we'll have to see what the sentiment is tomorrow once people have a full night to digest it.
Yeah, 7 p.m. or I guess 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. watch what happens in Japan, because if this closes at that time, the U.S. markets after markets close and it's somewhere lower, much lower than where it opened today, then you're going to probably see a pretty good sell off in Japan. Now, it doesn't have to be, because we do know that there are people who are protecting the Nikkei levels, the pension funds. I think it was the NPIF. But again, we do know that NVIDIA is part of the trade. Super Microcomputer is also part of the trade. ARM, SoftBank, all those kind of tech companies where you were seeing just stupid returns, a lot of the money pulled into. And again, they doubled down when the carry trade unwound because they thought it was over. It's not. Looks like it's bouncing up here, Ben. Again, we're just under 120. Now it's at 120. It's going to be a fun few hours. We'll see where it closes. That's the most important thing, where it closes and where it opens up for Asia.
Yep. All right. I think that is how we're going to wrap it up for tonight or for today. Appreciate those of you who joined us for this. Just as a recap, NVIDIA, just about expectations, forward guidance, not looking too great. And I think the markets are realizing that, hey, maybe we've squeezed all the juice out of it that we can for this market cycle. Or maybe Jensen's going to drop a bombshell on Bloomberg later. Who the hell knows? But I got the little guy right here. I'm going to go hang with him for a minute. You all have a great rest of your day. If you haven't yet, like, subscribe, all of that good stuff is appreciated. We'll be back probably on Monday. No, not on Monday. Markets are closed on Monday. Kevin's out of town this weekend, so we'll be back. We'll be back when we're back. We'll just leave it at that. So thanks, everyone, for joining us. Have a great rest of your week. Have a great holiday weekend if you're celebrating. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone.